Hello and welcome. So today we're going to learn how to describe variables that are measured on interval or ratio scale using graphs. So to illustrate my explanation, I will use hypothetical data. I've recorded ages of 29 people. The first person in my sample is 20-year-old person. Next person is 21-year-old. Next person is 30-year-old. In this way, I recorded ages of these people. So by looking at these data, by looking at this column, it's really hard to say what is the distribution of these people by their age. So one type of graph that helps us to see distribution of people by age is this graph. So from this graph, you can see that there are two major groups in my sample. The young people who are between 20 to 31, okay? And within this group of young people, the largest group represents people who are aged 26 to 27, and then this group of people make up 20% of my sample, around 20%. So another large group within my sample is the group of people who are aged 22 or 23. It means that I have lots of young people in my sample. So basically, this graph shows distribution of people by their age is known as histogram. So as in histogram, you see that the horizontal axis shows age groups, and then vertical axis shows the percentage. Each bar here, height of each bar shows the percent of individuals within specific age group. So in statistics, we call each bar as beans, or we can also call them as intervals, okay? And then each bean has some interval, so that is class interval. Let's take this tallest bar, okay? Tallest bean. Tallest bean, class interval, it is between 26 to 27. Okay, so the lower bound of this bean is 26, and upper bound is equal to 27. So these are the beans. And then we can also count the number of beans in this graph. Okay, so that this is bean number 1, this is bean number 2, bean number 3, okay, bean number 4, bean number 5, okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that here we have 12 beans, okay? So this means that has drawn this graph, they have classified all observations into 12 intervals. So in statistics, there is a clear rule based on which you decide how many beans you want to have in your histogram. And also you have a rule on what should be the optimal size of the interval. So to decide on those, we have two formulas that I will show you now. First formula is the formula that helps you to estimate the number of beans, okay, or number of class intervals. So to use that, we take this formula. So 1 plus 3.3 multiplied by logarithm of number of observations. So n here is the number of observations. And bean range, that is the interval between upper bound and the lower bound of each bean, is called bean range, and then is found by subtracting largest observation minus smallest observation divided by number of classes. Okay, so we need to find all these numbers, so that I have written here all numbers that we need to estimate. Okay, so let's start by finding the number of class intervals, or number of beans to which we want to classify all our data. So to do that, we use 1 plus 3.3 multiplied by natural logarithm of the number of observations. And then to find out the number of observations, we will use Excel formula, which is Excel command, which is count, okay? And then I select all observations of a variable age, and I close parentheses. So my estimation gives me that I need to devise 12 beans. So now I need to find bean range. In order to find bean range, first I need to know what is the largest observation. To find largest observation in my variable, I use formula, Excel formula, maximum, and I again select all this range, all my observations in my variable age, and you see, so the oldest person in my sample is 44 years old. Next, smallest observation is minimum, and I again select all observations, and I see that the youngest person is 20-year-old person. So I need to find range. So 44 minus 20. So it means that the range, like age difference between the oldest and youngest person is 24 years old, 24 years, okay? So now I can find bean range. So bean range, so that according to this formula, okay? So is the difference between largest and smallest observation, which is 24, divided by number of classes. And the number of classes or number of beans here we found is approximately 12. So therefore I put here 12. So you see, bean range should be 2. So now I know what is the number of beans I need to have. Okay, so that is 1, 2, okay, 3, and then and I drag my cursor so that to put all these 12, so that I need to devise 12 beans, okay? And starting point for the first bean is the smallest observation, which is 20, okay? And then I also know that the bean range is 2, which means that, so 20 plus 2 means 22, okay? So the 20, so the smallest observation plus bean range is 22, okay? And so this rule holds for all other beans. So therefore, I apply this rule, okay? So that 20 is the lower bound of the first bean. 22 is the lower bound of bean 2, okay? 42 is the lower bound of bean 12. So basically, we are talking about the interval, so that the first bean includes all people who are 20 or 21-year-olds, okay? So bean 2 includes all people who are 22 or 23-year-olds, okay? So bean 3 includes all people who are 24 or 25 years old. And then in this way, we continue. So 26 to 27, 28 to 38 to 39 and 40 to 41, okay? And then, so let me put here also extra space. You should be accurate, okay? And then the last one is 42 and older, okay? So that the last bean is 42 or older, okay? So these are my beans. Now the next task is I need to to count number of people who fall within each in this interval. So doing this manually will take a lot of time. So therefore, I use data analysis toolpack that is available in all Excel programs. So to activate that, so you see, I come here into File, I go to Options, and then I go to Add-ins, and then I select Data Analysis Toolpack. I press Go, and I tick the Analysis Toolpack, and I click OK. Okay, so you see that we have now, let me show this one. So we have now this part. This button is activated. Okay, so so if you have seen this, so what we do next? So we go to the data analysis, and then we go to the data analysis, and then select histogram, because we want to draw a histogram as I have announced. Okay, so select OK, and then what we do, we put input range. So basically we select all observations of our variable. Next, we select bin range. So bin range, we select the lower bounds. Okay, and then I also want to keep all output on the same sheet. Okay, on the same Excel workbook worksheet. Okay, so that what I do, output range, and I select M. Let's say any I can select any of the columns. Let me select that just like this one. Okay, and then I click OK. Okay, and then I click OK. You see, so I just like drag this to have all my data consistent. Okay, and then you see, so basically what did Excel do is counted the number of observations that fall within the first interval, then second interval, third interval. So that 4 means that there are 4 people who are aged either 22 or 23. 3 means there are 3 people who are aged either 24 or 25. There are 6 people who are aged 26 or 27. Okay, and then lastly, we see that there is one person who is older than 42, and therefore we can unite these two categories. So that what I do, instead of 0, I put this 1, and then so 42 and older. Okay, just to make sure that just to check whether I have selected all observations, and then whether Excel has counted all observations. What I do, I find total. Okay, so the total must add up to the number of people that are on whom I have their age. Okay, so it is sum, and then I select all frequencies, and then you see I have 29 people. This is correct. So in most of the cases, just plotting frequencies is not sufficiently informative. We probably want to estimate relative frequency. Okay, so we write relative frequency. Okay, frequency. Relative frequency. Relative frequency means that I want to estimate percentage of people within each age interval. Okay, within each age group. So what I do, I press equal sign. So I select 1 divided by total number of people in my sample, and then I want to fix total number of total number of people in my sample. So to do that, I press F4, so that you see that, and then when I press F4, Excel puts this cell as constant. It doesn't change, okay? So, but what G5, the upper side of this formula changes. And then what I do, I multiply by 100. So, and then I drag this till the end, okay? And then I go home, and then I just like want to decrease number of digits, okay? So now this means that one person makes up 3.4% of my sample. So 4 people together, they make up 13.8% of 29 people in my sample. Okay, so therefore I was able to draw, to classify all people first into the age groups. Then I found what percent do these people represent in the total number of people on whom I have collected age. Okay, so now next step, I want to draw a histogram. So to draw a histogram, I select intervals. Okay, next what I do, I press control, and I do not release control button, and then I select the relative frequencies. Then I go to insert, okay, and I select bar graph, and I select this one. So then, so something didn't work, so that I can do this manually. What I do, so let's do it again. Okay, so what I do, I select age, this one, and then I also select frequencies, and I put insert, okay, bar graph, okay. This is my bar graph. So this is so that here you see all my beans, but the only thing is that like unlike the first graph that I showed, there is a distance between my beans, okay? So I can change this by doing as follows. So what I do, okay, and so I click on any bar, okay, all bars, I go here, and then you see that series overlap, minus 27. So I set this to 0. Okay, and I also change the gap width, okay, into 0. And I press OK. You see, this is my background. And then I need to add chart titles. So what I do, I go to chart titles, and I write, so percent of total, okay. So I put percent of total, okay. And then here I write age groups. And then here I write distribution, okay, of students by age. So, and then this is figure 1. So this is it. And so we have, congratulations, and then we have our first histogram. Hope this is helpful, and thank you for watching.